Hello and welcome to our special coverage of the BJP's poll manifesto. After much delay, the BJP finally released its election agenda. The 42-page document dubs the UPA's 10-year rule as a lost decade, vows to get India back on the high growth path, taming inflation, creating jobs, top the BJP's agenda. Other key highlights is the party's reiteration of its opposition to FDI and multi-brand retail, even though it says it favours FDI in other sectors. On the tax reform front, the party promises to simplify the tax regime, but the manifesto is largely silent on two major issues, the GST and the DTC. To discuss the BJP's poll promises, I have with me Salman Aniso, spokesperson of the Congress Party, Samiran Chakrabarti, head of research at Standard Chartered Bank. Also joining us, Sudhir Kapadia, national tax leader at EY, Mohandas Pai, chairman of Manipal Global Education, Sanjay Dutt, director of Quantum Securities, Vinayak Chatterjee, chairman of Feedback Infrastructure. Also joining us, Piyush Goyal, National Treasurer of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He will join us in just a minute from now. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Mohandas Pai, let me start by asking you what you made of the 42-page document that was put out by the BJP today. Would you say that the document, in a sense, signals a shift within the BJP, development, economy, get pride of place, issues like Article 370, the Ram Temple, have made it to the last page of the BJP's document? So, in a sense, do you believe that the biggest acknowledgement of this manifesto is a reorientation or a reaffirmation of the reorientation of the Bharatiya Janata Party?
Well, the manifesto demonstrates a tussle between the old conservative faction and a group which wants to modernize and bring it in tune with India's reality and the aspirations of young people. So you'll see that the opening page talks about India's glorious heritage, 5,000-year-old history, a lot of mumbo-jumbo, which nobody believes in anyway. And then, of course, they talk about 370 and the Ram Temple and a couple of uniform civil code, which has been part of their manifesto for long. But if you remove these things, I think the rest of the entire manifesto is forward-looking. A lot of principles have been laid out. A lot of statements have been made about how to run the, how they will run the government if elected to power. Short on details, short on targets, but overall a very broad scope and a very, very, modern way of expressing what they want to the economy, which is inclusive and something in it for everybody. But it lacks specific details, unlike the Congress manifesto, which is extremely detail-oriented. But one good thing is we can be rest assured that there are not many giveaways in the BJP manifesto, unlike the Congress. So the giveaways are very less. They're broad principles. So I guess is a much better in terms of its fiscal conservativeness than other political parties.
Okay, let me take that point of fiscal conservatism forward with Samiran Chakrabarti. Samiran Chakrabarti, the BJP has said that they intend to bring the economy back to a path of fiscal prudence, to move away from fiscal profligacy. They have stopped short of giving out a fiscal deficit target. They talk about reforming banks. They talk about controlling NPAs. They talk about bringing in a regulatory body to monitor NPAs. What, to your mind, has been the highlight there as far as fiscal prudence and fiscal profligacy is concerned? Because the manifesto on all 42 pages have been absolutely silent on the issue of subsidies.
Yes, if you look at it, there is a kind of a hint that the tax rates could be moderated. So to that extent, the revenue collection might be lower. The manifesto is somewhat silent on the divestment, so it's not clear that where exactly the additional revenues are going to come from. But if you put these revenue side equations back into the fiscal equation, then what you get is that obviously subsidies will have to be cut significantly. And there what the manifesto promises is better targeting of subsidies, which at a broader level is something which everybody wants to achieve, but in practice how it will be achieved is yet to be seen. But what really strikes me as the most important part of this manifesto is how BJP is looking towards a much better center-state coalition to be formed, which can have a very significant bearing on the finances of both the center as well as the states.
Would you say that, to your mind, is the big highlight or the big idea as far as this manifesto is concerned, Samir? And this is something that Narendra Modi has spoken about often in his rallies. Today, the manifesto talks about setting up regional state councils that will ensure better facilitation of center-state relationships. So, in that sense, reforming the federal structure. Would you say that this, to your mind, is the big highlight of this manifesto?
Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that if this can be done, then the potential growth rate of this country can be increased manifold. But at the same time, we must acknowledge the challenges. The challenge is that 19 out of 28 states today is run by non-NDA governments. So clearly there will be political opposition to every such move to integrate the economy. But in my view as an economist, I would definitely welcome such a step.
Sudhir Kapadia, Samiran was talking about tax, and as Mohandas Pai has also pointed out, very short in specifics in terms of revenue mobilization. I want to get your comments on what the manifesto states as far as the GST is concerned. Unlike the Congress, and we can quibble about, the Congress making promises that it didn't keep, but the GST, there is no timeline given for the GST, and the Direct Taxes Code finds no mention whatsoever as far as this manifesto is concerned. Your quick reaction on both those two ambitious tax reforms before I move forward.
Well, I think on the GST, in my view, it is realistic not to put a timeline given whatever has happened and the point Samiran made about the different political parties ruling the states. I think as long as the intent is there and we see execution, whichever party comes to power, that would be welcomed. Promising GST within a short number of days, I think, is unrealistic. On the DTC, my personal view is that, the whole precursor of the DTC was the Kelkar Committee report way back in 2003, which talked about lowering tax rates and increasing the tax base and, removing unnecessary exemptions. If you keep these three pillars in mind, you can call it whatever, you can call it DTC, you can, call it some other name. But I think any government of the day should seriously look at these three very cardinal principles which Kelkar had laid out. And I think we'll be much better off, in that sense. Now, one last point I will make is this is the first time I have come across the term tax terrorism, very strong words used there. But all I will say is that what is gratifying to note, whether it is the Congress, whether it is the BJP, that tax policy finds a very prominent mention in election manifestos. I could be wrong, but I've never seen tax policy occupy such a prominent place. So it's really causing a lot of heartburn. There's no doubt about it, and that's why it is being paid so much attention.